Hello and welcome to a video that we're going to talk a lot about depression and anxiety this week. So I'm going to make as many videos as I can, clarifying what happens when we get anxiety, panic attacks, stuff like that. I've dealt a lot with this over the years and helped clarify for a lot of people and even get them out of this really crappy cycle of disconnecting. Depression is not a fun topic. It's not a fun thing to experience as a person. I know, been through it. And I can also tell when it's trying to sneak its way back into my life. Once you understand what I'm talking about, once you understand how it works, it makes it so much more accessible to reverse engineer, to change, to get yourself out of without the need of medication, without the need of traditional doctors, allopathic medicine, all that sort of stuff. I'm not saying you don't need help. When you're in it, it can get pretty bad, and seeking help is a great thing. I think you should. I'm not saying you shouldn't take medication. I'm not saying that at all. But you can work through this even while medicated. So, first things first, let's talk about medication. Now, medication, in my opinion, isn't the best route, but it is a route. It's a route that can help. Problem with medication is anxiety meds, depression meds keep you from dipping too low, which is the big benefit. When you dip really low on an emotional scale, it can get pretty bad, and you can start circling the drain. It also keeps you, and this is the problem, from hitting any highs at all. It kind of keeps you in this weird little mute zone that doesn't exactly help. It keeps you alive, however, which is good, because when you are depressed, your thoughts circle death more than you want to admit, more than you ever want to go to, and it's not fun at all. So, what I want you to notice, if you have anxiety, if you have depression, that kind of the first thing that you should become aware of is your breathing. And I know I say this a lot in a lot of videos, but it is number one when it comes to hacking your body and getting reconnected to your emotional system. The first thing that goes when you're anxious, it's almost like I like to describe the experience like jumping into cold water. Right? Your breath gets real tight. You have really shallow breathing, and everything starts to speed up. That's what anxiety is. Now, the definition that I have of anxiety is a little different than the dictionary version. Not super different, but a little different. It is a defense mechanism on an emotional level to warn you that that negative emotion is coming up that you told your body you did not want to feel anymore. I'll say that again. Anxiety is a defense mechanism that your body has and creates because you told it you didn't want to feel a certain negative emotion, and it's starting to come back up again. So it starts to speed everything up really quickly. And it takes your consciousness out of your body into your head and then starts to scatter it to futures that are created from past events and stuff that doesn't exist in the future. Also past events that you have no control over and also don't exist any longer. So when anxiety happens enough and you have a high level of anxiety, it can lead to depression, because what happens is these negative emotions over and over and over again that you are constantly telling your body you do not want to process and you do not want to feel fully. It starts to take the hint and it starts to listen, because your body will listen to you endlessly and at a very, very acute level. It will always say, what are you saying? Okay, cool. No, we'll do that. We got you. It will listen to you and it will follow suit. It will take your orders. So if you have a problem with anxiety and you don't have a problem with depression, that's probably on its way. But you can change it if you would like to. Okay? A lot of people don't want to. They like their constant state of frustration, but I think if you found this video, there's part of you that wants to get beyond that. Or somebody sent this to you that thinks this might help. So let's simplify it as much as possible. When you realize that anxiety is a defense mechanism, that you don't want to feel something negative, let's go back to the root of that, right? Why wouldn't we want to feel something negative? Well, first of all, obvious reasons, it's crappy, it sucks. Very simple, right? It almost always boils down to that, right? But as a kid, a lot of the times we make these decisions not to feel negative emotions before we're conscious that we're making the decision. So in our early stage of life, our brain functions in a totally different way. It's like this giant sponge. It functions in a theta vibration wavelength, which we know all about. And you can go look up theta brain waves and all that sort of stuff. However, you don't probably remember a lot of the decisions you made as a kid, especially on an emotional level. Now, some of you might, because if you do have anxiety, it's going to be because of what you think is something that happened to you. But that something that happened to you triggered an emotional response. Okay, so it's not necessarily the something that happened to you, because that doesn't exist right now. It's instead the emotion that something that happened to you, that memory, it's the emotion that came up because of it and continues to come up when you think of that memory or whatever happened. Because if you think about that memory, it's almost as if it happened 5 minutes ago. It's super vivid and there's a lot of detail to it, right? So what we're usually caught up in is that story of what happened, past events, all that sort of thing, and then we fear what could happen in the future. So what we want to do is realize that we're getting distracted by the story. We're getting stuck in our head and we need to breathe, because whenever we think of that story, we stop breathing. Okay? So breathe. Let your body have some sort of connection and some sort of flow. That's what breathing does. Breathe. Let your body start to understand that the experience of why you care about the story is down here, down in your body. And realize that your emotional function is down in your body as well. So breathe. Realize that there's going to be tension, there's going to be heaviness, there's going to be parts of you that are not feeling great, that are feeling negative. And you need to start to pay attention to what's happening now in the present moment. Not what happened in the past, not what could happen in the future. You need to pay attention to what's happening now, right here in your body. Now, it's going to boil down, whatever the story is, it's going to boil down to the best way that people describe it to me, because we're kind of crappy at explaining emotions, is a sound. Like, that's the best way people can describe to me their feeling on a physical level. It's like, ugh, right? Ugh, right? It's this weird guttural feeling that is heavy, feels like crap. Sometimes it's in our heart and it's tense and it's, you know. Either way, breathing becomes restricted when we start to become aware of this function. So if you want to get out of anxiety, become aware of how your physical body is reacting to your emotional experience. And then engage in it. Start to breathe with it. Start to just be with it. Start to be in a place where you're not trying to get it over with, which is how the anxiety is created. We're trying to get it over with as much as we can and as fast as we can. Problem is we've never been able to do that. And as somebody that's helped thousands of people get through this type of stuff, you never will ever get over the negative emotion. Now, this is a tough area because we're not good at describing emotions. We're good at judging. We're really good at it. So if you try to describe to me what it's like, there's going to be a lot of judgment words come out of what it is. So take all those judgments and realize, okay, these are all judgments, and then start to boil it down to maybe a physical feeling. And then you start to realize, okay, I've had this feeling before, and you will every single time boil it down to one of two actual emotions. It's either going to be sadness or anger. And sadness is a lot more acceptable in our society. We usually allow ourselves to be sad. What we don't allow is anger. What is not acceptable in our society is anger. We're really crappy at this. We're not good at feeling and expressing our anger as human beings. We're really good, or so we think, at repressing it, at controlling it, at not allowing it to be around, not to be present, not to be a thing, because it seems to make more problems than it does solutions. But that's only because we're really not good at our fight or flight response. We don't understand it very well, and we don't allow ourselves to engage. So the reason this gets created with anxiety is like, okay, this negative emotion starting to come up. This speeding up feeling starts to happen, and our fight or flight response kicks in, right? Because we're like, hey, we don't want to feel this anymore. Remember that? We kind of made that decision and we just don't want to do this any longer. So let's fight this or run away as quickly as possible. Both of those options always feel the same. And most of us have done both, but we usually gravitate toward one more than the other. We're either a fighter or a flighter. However, we have usually experienced both, where we've, blown up, we've stuffed it enough and ran away enough that we eventually blow up and the cork pops, right? Steam comes out. We just spit venom all over everybody. And the opposite is also true. Like, hey, I've ruined enough relationships spitting venom that maybe I should hold on to this, right? The problem with both of those scenarios is they both feel the same. They both feel just as crappy as not expressing it. They both feel like, ugh, right? It's hard to describe. However, if you realize what you're doing, it makes it a lot easier to process, a lot easier to engage in. So what I want you to do is realize that fight or flight are not your only two options. You have a lot of space in between those where you can actually engage in the emotion. These are all about control. You're trying to control the situation, whether you blame others or you blame yourself. Overexpression of emotion, spitting venom, or underexpression of emotion, okay? Which is festering, like it's just stuffing it down. So take both of those and realize that you have a lot of room in between there. And depending on the situation, depends on the level of intensity of expression of what happened to you, okay? Now, if it's sadness, cool. Be sad, be in it. Stop trying to do something about it. Just let your body feel it. Don't try to say, oh, I'm going to analyze this. I'm going to realize who's responsible and what's responsible. That's not important. What's important is letting your body feel it and you becoming aware of what the feeling is on a physical level, where it is in your body, why it's so crappy, right? Breathe as you do this. It makes it a lot easier and it makes it go a lot quicker. So as you breathe, you're doing two things. Oxygen in, right, which supports every cell and its function and giving it power to process emotion and function. And breathing pumps your lungs, which is your only pump for your lymphatic system, which is the cell's garbage man or waste disposal system. So, two very cool things are happening when you breathe. Allow yourself to just be in it, and if there's ever a physical action, breathe. All right? Now, if it's anger, makes a lot of sense. It's hard to deal with. Not really our favorite thing to deal with, but necessary. And something that you're never, ever going to get rid of. Like ever. I've tried and failed. And I've helped thousands of people who've realized that they've tried and they're failing, that are a lot older than me, they've been trying for a lot longer than me, that they're never going to actually get rid of anger. That doesn't work. So instead, allow yourself the opportunity to be in it long enough to get to know it, to get to know why it's there, what's there for, at what intensity it's there, and then that gives you a little more clarity on how to express it, right? Now, the big thing that helped me is why. Why would this come up? Now, sadness is an interesting one, okay? Pretty straightforward. We don't really have a lot of problems with it. We feel let down, we feel betrayed, all that sort of stuff, right? Now, what's funny is the same thing can happen that triggers sadness on the opposite end of that emotion, which is anger. The same things that trigger sadness literally trigger anger. Now, anger only ever comes up for one reason, and it's a beautiful, well-designed reason, better than we're ever going to really understand. However, the thing that helped me the most is its only reason to come up is to signal you, to communicate to you that there is an unequal exchange of energy happening. Now, if there's an unequal exchange of energy happening, that makes it so much easier to identify what the unequal exchange of energy is. And if you understand what it is, which doesn't take a whole lot of research to do, it just takes time. If you take time to feel it, it's so much easier to express. So let your body find out why. All right? Then give yourself the scale of where your expressive range is, of where you want to actually engage in it at. Okay? And then try, okay? Don't worry, you're going to screw it up. You will. But that's only because it's new. It's a new process. It's a new function, all right? Now, getting your body to engage in expressing is simple, but not always easy, all right? You are going to underexpress it sometimes. You're also going to overexpress it sometimes. But you need to become aware when you do that, okay? And it's pretty simple. It feels like crap. Whenever you feel crappy, you're underexpressing it. Whenever you feel crappy, you're overexpressing it. So you're either stuffing it down or spitting venom and blaming others or blaming yourself. Either way, realize what's happening. Become aware of what it is. Breathe, which is going to give you a lot of clarity. And then speak, express. There's so many different ways you can express it, and only your body's going to know the best way to actually express it. Do what feels right. Do what feels right to you. Nobody else can tell you exactly what this process is. They can't. But you need to take that type of an action with expression. Art is a good way to do it. Communicating, very simple way to do it. The majority of people are going to do the communicating version. Now, art is just another form of communication. Absolutely. So, find your medium, express it, please. Because if you do this, then you're never, ever going to have a problem with depression. And if you do have a problem with depression, here it is. Depression is you disconnecting from your emotional mechanism, from your emotional function. Depression is you trying to disconnect from your body. Okay? If there's so much negative happening and you say, I don't want to be a part of it, don't want to be here, your body's going to listen to you. And then you are going to circle the drain, which sucks. And I hope that you can get out of there. That's why I'm making this video. That's why I'm going to keep talking about it. That's why I'm going to try to make different videos that are all from different perspectives of depression and anxiety on how you can change it. All right? If you have a problem with it, please reach out, ask questions. Let's figure this out. Let's clarify what it is. If you think you have a unique situation, let's do a session. Let's record it. I'll do that for free so we can share it with the world and learn together. All right? So breathe and just try and reconnect with your body and your emotional system so that you do not disconnect and disassociate with your body and your emotional mechanism. All right? Super important. Take your time, ask questions. I'll make a whole lot more videos on this. All right? I hope this helped. I really do. Because it's a big problem and we need to change it so it's not such a big problem. Anyway, good luck out there. I hope this helps. Please breathe. Breathe. Just be with your body. Try, okay? Good luck.